Welcome to On the Inside, episode 7, joined here by Paddy Cripps and Lachie Neale up in Brisbane. Loch, we might start with you. Let's talk through your quad injury, which from all reports was a bit of a funny one, but you're going to be out for the rest of the home and away season. How is it?
Yeah, it feels pretty good, which is probably the most annoying part. I could run pretty much 3 or 4 days post. They got me back into it and clicking off some Ks already. So it's a bit of a frustrating one. I've sort of been going to the physios, telling them I'm right to go and want to play this week, but I don't think they'll let me. Well, it's not just like a normal strain. So I'm not really sure if I'm meant to say, but it doesn't matter. But I've sort of degloved the rec fem, which basically the muscle inside pulls apart from the outer ring of it. So it's not like just a strain. So got to be a little bit cautious with it, make sure that that heals properly and it's all good to go. Otherwise, it could turn into something pretty nasty from what I've been told. So, yeah, it feels pretty good. I can run well. I haven't done a heap of kicking yet just because it's a quad, but, ramp up over the next couple of weeks and hopefully the boys can get the job done and I can be back for September if we make it.
How'd you go watching? I don't reckon I've seen you miss too many games over the last sort of 4 or 5 years, and you're sitting with the big Budwa in the game. How'd you go sitting next to the big man?
Yeah, it was good. He's got pretty good insights into the game, Bud, and he wasn't too vocal. I was like, I wonder if he's going to be cheering the Swans home, and I'm sure he was going for him, but he was sitting with a fair few Brisbane people, so he just sat there nice and quietly and watched the game, and it was good to have a bit of a chat to him about footy and life in general. He seems like he's going well. He's doing some marathons and stuff. I think he's done a couple of half marathons. He's got one in Alice Springs coming up, and then he's going to do the New York Marathon with a foundation that he's working with. So he's in good nick, the buddy. Looks like he could go out and play, and we should have chucked a Brizzy jumper on him and got us over the line. But yeah, I didn't watch too well. I was sort of pretty nervous watching, hated it. So yeah, hopefully I don't have to do it too often. Done.
How do you go watching? Like, I'm not a great watcher. It's funny. I don't get nervous playing anymore, but I get nervous watching.
Yeah, I'm the exact same. I've obviously had the experience from having a long period out the last year or so before I got back of watching a lot of footy. And I think the toughest part about watching or being a part of not playing is watching the boys run out. You know, the pre-game warm-up when there's high energy, it's literally watching your childhood dream in front of you, which you want to be doing every week, just sort of disappear right in front of your eyes. And then I weirdly became used to it, but it's not something you want to become too accustomed to. I'm not the best watcher either. You actually, like you said, Cripper, you're more nervous in the seat watching than when you're actually out on the field in control.
Yeah, I think it's just all about the control. Like I feel like you still get a little bit of butterflies pre-game, but I feel like once the first 5 minutes you get so locked in and focused and you understand what you got to do that the game can go that quick. But when you're watching, you're just like riding every moment. I reckon from a higher level, you see the game unfold. You can see the game unfolding, so you sort of feel like it's so much easier from the stands because you can sort of see it. But when you're out there, you're so locked in, and I don't know. I'm not a great watcher. So
talk to us about Carlton, Cripper. You guys have obviously improved. Like it seems like your form's in a good spot, and the big story throughout the week is Voss staying and re-signing. Not re-signing, but there's obviously a lot of speculation about his role at the club for next year. How do you feel about him staying and the progress for you guys moving forward next year?
Yeah, I thought it was great for the club to do it at that time, just to end any speculation. And the boys were pumped. Like we've all loved playing under Vossy, and it's been a tricky year. And I feel like overall we felt like there had to be accountability everywhere with it. So I know a lot of the external was trying to put it on Vossy, but us as players, especially as leaders, taking a fair bit of responsibility of that. And we know next year we've got to be a lot better. Everyone involved in the footy club, but in terms of us, mate, I feel like the energy's sort of shifted in the last couple of weeks. Like we had a bit of a rough patch there, which I feel like every team throughout the year has a bit of a 3 or 4 week rough patch that they struggle for a bit of sort of confidence. But I feel like the last couple of weeks, although we haven't won, we played a brand that is sort of back to what we think's our identity, and we've got a lot of youth in the team at the moment, which they're sort of coming in and they're getting a feel of what AFL's about. And the last 2 weeks we've versed 2 finals teams, potentially top 4 teams in Freo and Gold Coast, and we've taken it right up to them. And some of these young guys are really starting to stand up. So it's been good fun. But obviously the competitor in you, you're still not satisfied as you want to win. But we've enjoyed the last couple of weeks and the energy, and I suppose the crowd, especially in the last quarter against Gold Coast, was pretty fun. But I want to throw to you, mate. It's obviously the Pies have been humming all year. Every team goes through one or two, I suppose, mulligans a year. That's probably what happened to you boys on the weekend. How did you process all that?
Yeah, like you touched on, I feel like every team at some point throughout the season goes through their rut, and we're well and truly going through ours at the moment. It's tough. It's a tough period at the moment. We're not playing our best footy. Hawthorn clearly outplayed us. It felt like we couldn't really pressure them very well, which is something we pride ourselves on, is our pressure. But the main message from Fly post-game was just about sticking together, because you understand, and you've been through it, Paddy, like you're probably the same. The outside world's going to come for you. They're going to ride off the team, ride off players. So just the importance of sticking together and riding that wave, because that's the only way through it, really. If you start to go into silos and isolate yourself, that's when things just become even harder. So we understand we're not where we want to be right now, but we think we've got the team to respond and bounce back, and it's going to be a huge game over in Adelaide this weekend against the top team. There'll be 50,000 plus there. I'm sure a lot of Collingwood fans will travel, so it's going to be a massive game, something we're really looking forward to. But yeah, the main message for us has just been to stick together. All right, boys, it's time for the Fuel Tomorrow campaign via Gatorade, who's been a huge sponsor of the show and everything we're doing here at Ball Magnets as well. And obviously 30,000 teens are dropping out of sport every year, which is something we want to try and mitigate. If you want the tools, anyone out there watching, to help teens stay in sport, head to gatorade.com.au. There's plenty of great insights there to help and figure out how to keep teens in sport, because it is such an important thing, and it's something that we loved growing up, was playing sport. But boys, the topic for this week is feeling heard and acknowledged. How did you ensure you felt heard and acknowledged, both in your junior days, helping out a teammate, but also in your current days? How do you help people that don't have a voice have a voice?
Yeah, I find even when I was younger, if someone I respected or looked up to, or a coach actually sat there and listened and didn't dismiss me straight away, even if it was a bit of a silly idea or a silly question, made me feel really comfortable, allowed me to open up a little bit more and keep me engaged. So I find if you actually listen to even now the younger boys that come in, like for us, we know our game plan and whatnot. You've been doing it for years and years, and just sort of acknowledging questions that you think are really simple and basic, but actually listening to them and giving them a reasonable answer rather than dismissing it or laughing at them if you think that it's not a sort of valid question. But that's something that I always try and do, because I remember when I first came into the system, how much you don't know. And since you've been in the system for me, it's 14 years now, some of the stuff seems really basic, but for them it's fresh, and they don't really have any idea. So making sure you're just always listening to people that have those questions and letting them open up and valuing what they've got to say, I think is a really important part of it.
Yeah, I think for me, the thing I always take from when I think back of like teenage years or early in my career, is just like you remember the leaders or coaches or mentors that I suppose how they made you feel. So some of my favourite memories in young years was my coach here, or playing school footy, and just having coaches that made you, I suppose, valued or feel good about yourself. And I reckon that's one thing, even to Lachie's point before, like for me as a leader now, I know the importance of when young guys come in, help show them the way. But if you celebrate their role or celebrate effort, or you make them feel good, which builds their confidence, builds their self-esteem. Like I know I've said it on previous shows, but I'm a firm believer if people feel good about themselves, they'll perform good. And the way you can really encourage them and build them up and get the enjoyment of what they do is so important. So that's a few things I sort of focus on. I don't know what you got, Tommy.
Yeah, quite similar to you guys. I loved your answer, Lock, around there's no silly questions, because like you said, at some point in time we were people learning and starting from scratch as well. But I think it comes back to creating a really safe environment. They're the best things you need, I think, as a teenager, where you can ask any question. But I think also having, whether it be a mentor or a teammate, someone that you can confide in that may have a louder voice. So whether that's, I've been at footy clubs where we've broken down into small groups with a leader, maybe another senior representative of that team, and maybe a younger player, a teenager who is still learning the ropes. And I think conversations and getting your points across in smaller groups can be less intimidating than, I guess we can all recall times when you speak in front of the group and how nerve-wracking that can be. But I think breaking into smaller groups can make you feel heard and acknowledged. And then there may be a leader, a parent, a coach in that position who can actually take that issue or problem up to the higher powers who can actually help and assist with that. So that would be my experience of it. But I love all the answers. Is there anything else you guys would like to add? If you go back and think about when you were a teenager, is there an example of maybe mention a player or a coach, use their name if you like, of who that person was and what they did for you guys? Lach, we'll start with you.
For me, like my junior coaches at under 14s, Jamie Kelly and I was about to say Brian Edwards, who coached. They were joint coaches of my under 14s team, and they were really good at that. Listening to us kids, just sort of asking heaps of questions, and for them it probably seemed pretty basic, but they made us feel like they were really important and that we were asking important questions, and they were always teaching us things. And I remember just feeling really good about training sessions and games and looking forward to going to them to sort of pick their brains. They were really successful country footballers themselves, so for me it just made me feel important and made me want to go back and keep training and playing. Cripper?
Yeah, I had a few. There was a year 8 when I first went to boarding school. We got a real close group of boarders mates, and we all loved our sort of footy back then, and as we still do now. But Mr. V and Percy Johnson, we used to do centre bounce craft with them after training, and just talk about the tactics of centre bounce. And like, it's funny, just like that engagement they had, and like we were so like young and just eager to learn, and that we had two sort of really senior guys. I reckon they both would have been 60 at the time. They just loved the energy that we provided. So that youth, but I reckon like back to the teenagers, like you think about teenagers now, like you got so much going on in your life. I reckon you got high school, your body's changing. There's a fair bit going on, and then obviously when you first leave school, like you go from everything structured to you're trying to figure it out. You go either going to uni or you're doing a trade, and or you're doing a bit of travel. So it can change pretty quick. So the importance of having, I suppose, good mentors and good people in your corner that can really guide you and build you up. And like I said before, make you feel good is really important throughout those stages in your life. I don't know, you got Tommy?
Yeah, similar. I had a few junior coaches, Damon Paul, Greg McLaughlin, exact same things as you guys. Made you really feel really comfortable and ask any question you like, and there's still people you keep in touch with today, which is pretty awesome. Let's head back to the footy, boys, because the top 9 is so tight at the moment. It's going to be so interesting the next couple of weeks to see how it all unfolds. And like, you were watching the Freo game, I think you were hoping secretly that Freo would lose, and their late game tactic of throwing Alex Pearce forward when the game was actually a draw. We've seen teams do this before in the past where they throw a 7th forward down aggressively to try and win the game. We've had Jordan Dawson from Adelaide do it to us at Collingwood a couple of times, but he went forward, took a huge mark and helped win them the game. What was your take on that play?
Yeah, well, first of all, the Freo fans don't like me already, so now that you've said that, Tommy, they'll be right off me. But it was pretty impressive. It was pretty brave, I suppose, with the scores tied for them to roll the dice like that. And I think they said it was a set play after the game. Big Moose, Alex Pearce, said that they've sort of practiced that, and he wanted forward. I think he had a pretty good matchup. It looked like he might have been on Rosie, so obviously wanted to take advantage of the height difference and wandered down and took a pretty good grab. And I think it was Sarong that kicked that ball in. It's a pretty good set play, and for him to go back and slot that at a pretty clutch time for them. And like you said, the way the season's panning out, crucial win for the Dockers, and it looks like now they're a genuine chance to finish top 4. And yeah, it's going to be an epic couple of weeks with the matchups, even for us. Got Freo and then the Hawks. I think Freo have got obviously us, and then I think they play Bulldogs in the last round. That could be like, if Bulldogs win, they get in. If they lose, they might be out. So there's so many options on the table. It's going to be a pretty crazy fortnight of footy, which will be good to sit back and watch. Unfortunately, I won't be out there to help. But I'll be sitting there biting my nails watching our games for sure.
Cripps, you go to these captain's days every year, and like you've been to a couple as well, and you get to integrate with the other captains of all the other clubs. How does that day go? Do you enjoy going? And talk to us a little bit about Pierce the person.
Yeah, mate, they're great days. It's I love anything that any event that you can go to with guys from other teams, because I feel like the longer you're in the system, the more you get to know these guys, especially in the leadership roles. So they're good days. I love the captain's day. You get to talk about a few important topics, and when you get sort of 18 skippers in one room, you get some pretty strong opinions of how we can sort of grow the game, but also things that you want to get after as an AFL, but also from a player's point of view. But Pierce, he has a different view on things, I reckon. It's the best way to describe him. He's not afraid to put his opinion out there, but he's a great leader for Freo. I love that play. I reckon when you get late in games, you sort of see the mindset of teams, and the fact that it was a draw and seeing Freo as aggressive. I just love that late in game that you're playing to win, not to lose. I think that's so important in the game, and the psychology that's so important. So I feel like Freo, were gutsy doing it, and it paid off. I feel like it always pays off when you're being brave and late in game. And for the context of their year, like the Real Deal said, it's it's big. I think they're sitting top 4 now. They got Brizzy this week, which is going to be great to watch. As a footy fan, you love watching those games, and I feel like the AFL season, the last sort of 3 or 4 years, the comp's been that even. This last round, we've been involved in a fair few of them where it comes down to the last game, and a team might have to win to. It's basically like an elimination final in the last round of the home and away season. So, like you said, mate, you got Adelaide this week, which is probably a big sort of one in terms of top 4 sort of proceedings. You got the Freo Brisbane game, and then
Giants Gold Coast as well.
Giants Gold Coast in the last round. There's obviously Dogs Freo, Brizzy Hawks.
Wow, yeah.
I'm not sure who you guys got last round, but there's going to be a lot of sort of moving sort of parts where top 4 is obviously what you want. That's everyone's goal at the start of the year, but you also want to be playing finals too. So it's going to be a great end of the year, which is exactly what the AFL wanted, I reckon.
Exactly, yeah. It's going to be some great footy to watch to finish out the year. And boys, that's a wrap for episode 7 of On the Inside. Thanks again for joining us. Last episode next week, so we will have an answer after some of those games have unfolded, and hopefully we can unpack the last round for the audience heading into that, and then how you approach that for the teams that are in finals contention. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, boys.
Go away, lads.